Hello, welcome to the Connectional America Business Alliance online networking meeting, hosted by the American Business Podcast. American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. Today, we have special guests, special professionals hosted on the American Business Podcast under the brand of the Connection America Business Alliance online networking event. Let's welcome our guest and let's get the online exclusive business networking event started. Welcome to the Connection America Business Alliance online networking event. Thank you for being with us. So we have different subjects to cover today, and I'm very, very excited. If that's okay, we can get started with our subjects today, and we can get the conversation started. I like to start with introductions. So let's go around the room and let's introduce our business, what we do, and how you are helping other businesses thrive in your own company's operations and in your own market. Carla, shall we get started with your organization?
Okay, so my name is Carla Hart, and I have two businesses that have really been casualties of the AI advances and really just technological advances in general. So the one business, which is how I connected with Kevin, is called missionstatements.com. It's been around since about 2008, and it is a curated, probably largest curated library, I like to think, in the world of mission and vision statements. The revenue is generated by the writing services. So mission and vision, website content about us, any kind of short writing that people needed to help them put words to whatever it was they were trying to do. It was really quite lucrative for years, and then in the last 2 years, basically dried up. And it's, there's many factors, but probably the number one is people can get writing for free, basically, right? And then the other business that I had was called West 65. I still have that business, and it's kind of gone away because the cost is low now for people to do their own marketing and branding. My company used to act as somewhat of a middleman for small to mid-sized businesses that maybe didn't have a marketing staff or didn't want to hire a larger agency. So we did professional videography, photography, website building, anything that would go along with creating a digital or not digital presence for companies. So my skill is writing, editing, technical writing, business writing, ghost writing, creative writing. So I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out, is there still a place for humans to compete in this space? If you go to my website, missionstatements.com, I've put on the top now, do you need a human to help you write? So I'm open to any input from you all, not knowing what your backgrounds are or your businesses, to the question of, can you compete? Can a writer who just does business writing, technical writing, compete in the AI world? In that decision, so there's a lot of cost involved with just keeping, your websites, all the services that need to be in place to keep a business up, even at a nominal level. So I'll stop there.
All right. So who is your ideal customer, you will say, in terms of
it's
your services?
Individuals, small businesses. I used to get a lot of clients who would be, in a situation where they maybe were starting a business. So it was one employee, small to mid-size. Most of my clients in the last decade, they're, 100, 200 employees. So again, not really big enough necessarily to have a full marketing staff or want to hire an agency.
Okay, that's a great insight, Carla. Thank you so much. Well, let's go around the room. Vince, shall we continue with you? Why don't you introduce yourself and your organization and your products, and who is your ideal customer?
Thank you, Kevin, very much for having me. I'm Vince Stark. I'm with Kerr Consulting / Cherry Beckert. You see that I've got a Kerr Consulting shirt on. The background says Cherry Beckert. We were acquired, I say we, Kerr Consulting was acquired by Cherry Beckert last August, a year ago August, and we're in the process of transitioning. And a company that's been around for 35 plus years with all its branding and marketing and goodwill with customers, it's more challenging to get that not only the tech stack integrated, but the customers used to just referring to Cherry Becker. Okay, so that's the background why I have a multi-personality. Um, the Cherry Beckert is a CPA firm that does specializes in tax audit and advisory. Kerr Consulting falls under the advisory portion. So my background in Kerr Consulting was while we had CPAs and accountants on it, we really weren't doing tax audit. We were doing helping customers find accounting information systems, human capital management solutions, and I'll define that term. It used to just be payroll, human resources, and time labor management. We all love acronyms in the tech sector. So, human capital management, CRM, anywhere where we can help do business process review and automation. And unfortunately, yes, that does include embracing AI. Carla, we'll come back and catch up later on. I've got
Okay.
some ideas for you.
Thank
Um,
you.
and and so we have a variety of different products in the accounting arena, from small business all the way up to quasi enterprise. We're not tier one. We're more, tier two, tier three. And if you look at a pyramid, tier one is going to be that Fortune 500, maybe 1,000. And there's a much broader business opportunity in the tier two to tier three. And the products we sell and support go up and down. So very large organization, multiple locations. By being acquired by Cherry Beckert, we have really opened up our services that I can promote. My title is senior consultant, I guess. Yes, I've been doing sales, implementation, and support for 35 years of accounting information systems and human capital management. And now we have these other services that we can offer to our clients. Again, tax advisory, and it just really opens up the business opportunity for us. We probably, I started with Kerr Consulting when we could have a company meeting around a kitchen table. And now when I go into our company meetings online, Randy Swearingen, who is my other long-standing employee with Kirk Consulting, we just are amazed at the number of people. And that's not really including the Cherry Beckert people, just how big Kirk Consulting. So offices nationwide and specializing in helping clients get through the noise of the best accounting information systems, human capital management, job costing, construction. Our marketplace is very diversified. So Kevin asked me, can you give us a profile of your customer? And it's difficult. I have not-for-profits. I have manufacturers. I have family offices or private equity. We have, service organizations and construction. So it's a really broad base. Now, I'm not doing all of that. We have talent in different parts of our company, but there is not really a way for me to say specifically which customer is perfect for us, because we have such a diversification of talent that can address needs for a multitude of customers.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Vince. Thank you for these insights. Well, let's continue going around the room and let's introduce our businesses, products, and services. Then, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin, for having me. Thank you, group,
My
for
pleasure.
being part of this. Name's Dan Stieglitz, President of CS Worldwide. We are process improvement, internal control, and automation specialists. We work with companies in all different fields, mostly food and beverage, data services, inventory management, professional service companies, in reviewing holistically what their processes are, from sales to distribution of those sales, either at shipping or distribution of services, and everything in between. And what we do with them is we figure out how to make that process more efficient, effective, controlled, and bring in automation. Many of my clients, we talk about AI, say, oh, that means AI. And I said, no, it doesn't. AI is much, it's really immature right now for bringing in to automate companies. And we always use the crawl, walk, run type of a scenario where we tell them, let's figure out where we can make our processes more efficient and effective, where we can automate processes so they can be done over and over again and get rid of detailed human involvement. So our human resource, can be used for what we want them to better effectuate what decisions are being made and not entering data. And then we bring in AI to help enhance what they're doing. I work with Jerry Beckett and a lot of other vendors to bring in the solutions, and have done this again for companies big and small. My largest client is probably about 650 million in revenue. It works with school districts across the country. To my smallest client, probably $3 or $4 million, and just a handful of people who need to better how they deliver services to their customers.
Thank you, Dan, for these introductions. And
Thank you.
yeah, we'll get back to you and we'll talk more about your company's services and benefits of working with your organization. Let's continue with Richie, if that's okay. Hello, Richie. Welcome to the event.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Hi from across the pond. So I'm Richie. I'm based out here in London, England. So I'm a transformation specialist. What I do is, I'll keep it brief pretty much. I help elite performers engineer the edge from the inside out. So not just in business, but we're talking about health, we're talking about relationships and execution. So that is pretty much in a nutshell what I do.
And in terms of your ideal clientele, what type of companies, organizations are ideal for your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got two clientele. I've got a B2B sort of like offering where I work with actually businesses and how we can actually change the culture. So we got Operators Edge Enterprise, where we look at culture and how we look at the operations and how is it that we can enhance and how they actually show up. Not only just the culture, but the operations itself, so just streamlining the whole processes. Then I work with business leaders, the founders, CEOs, for the most part, meeting them where they are at that moment in time. So we look at personal systems, business systems. So in those kind of areas, be it health, wealth, relationships, those are kind of key areas, or I would call them human needs. How is it we can fulfill those kind of areas? As opposed to just being one-dimensional, sort of like success. How is it that we can win in all those areas without sacrifice? The key is scaling without sacrificing, without burnout. Burnout is so real in our business world these days. So this cuts across both in the case of in the business environment where we can actually introduce that as a culture, sort of like from not just from the top down, but from the bottom up, and how people can actually show up effectively. But that also goes to individuals as well, and how is that they can show up their best without actually burning out by scaling without sacrificing the things that matter. We're talking about their health, relationships. So that is pretty much in a nutshell what we do.
Appreciate it. Thank you for these introductions. And we're going to dive deeper in the next round as to what you do and why should companies work with you and your organization. Thank you very much, Richie.
Great.
David, let's talk about sustainability. Can you please introduce your organization to our audience and
my
other
pleasure.
fellow networkers? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. So I am the president of Pupfish Sustainability Solutions. We started 5 years ago And we all, my partners got together and we wanted to do something to help our environment. We focused on electronics recycling. We felt there was a lot of room for improvement in that area. And in the process, we became the leaders and experts in data destruction, since that is now such a key aspect of protecting data from start to finish. Pupfish, our data destruction methods are NAID AAA certified through iSigma, and that signifies our adherence to the highest security and the information destruction industry. We operate on a zero landfill recycling policy, which ensures that all the devices are 100% either repurposed or recycled back into the U.S. manufacturing stream. Nothing is ever sent overseas for recycling or for disposal. And Pupfish Sustainability Solutions, we received our certified B Corporation status in 2021, and we're proud to use business as a force for local and global good. So we're really trying to do our best to protect the environment and do the best for our communities. We help companies big and small. We are a fairly small company, but that doesn't, we don't shy away from the large projects. Small law firms, finance companies, medical offices. We help data centers. We did a data center down in Philadelphia, 1.3 million square feet. We had to take care of 14,000 backup tapes for them. We handle 13 school districts on Long Island. We just did an RFP for one of the largest medical groups in the tri-state area, 13 hospitals, 465 surgery centers. So we're really helping anybody. And I know that's not the right thing to say on a networking call. You're supposed to be specific. But anybody that has a computer, anybody that has data, they spend lots of money protecting it when it's online, but they often forget about it when it's taken offline. And that data at rest is data at risk. So data at rest still can cause a data breach and cost millions of dollars and damage your reputation. We make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's critical and very important. And in that sense, it's also a great opportunity for companies to learn from you in terms of the importance of sustainability and how they can actually take next steps if they like to safely recycle their electronics. So that's a great opportunity. Thank you very much, David, for the introductions.
Thank you.
Shrey, would you like to introduce your company and your organization?
Thank you, Kevin, for inviting me today to talk about me and my company. My company, Shrema Global, is a business consulting services. We're there from almost like 40 years in the industry. And just wanted to give you the idea about the customer base. We're basically having a 98.7% of industries in the United States is small and medium companies, and they definitely are still working with the primitive way of manufacturing or the service operation. And in order to compete with the internationally or globally, they really need to sustain and grow. And for that, they need to improve their processes, improve their efficiency, improve their productivity, improve their supply chain, and definitely today they need to implement all the softwares and AI tools to make their operation more efficient. And we're there for the companies, whether it's a manufacturing or classical manufacturing or service industry, and we've been helping them a lot from last 40 years. I have from smallest like a smallest company with 5 employees to up to like more than 350 employees, kind of an operations where we help them out in making better. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these introductions. I appreciate it. Well, in this round, I like us to talk about the common challenges that you see in the marketplace and most common challenges that you see that companies are experiencing in your own field, and why should organizations choose your company, your products and services? So what makes you different? So it's twofold. The first part is, what are the common challenges that you see in the market, in your own marketplace, and why should companies choose your organization? What makes you different? So let's talk about it, if that's okay, and let's let our audience learn about your organization and your services in a more detailed manner. Carla, shall we start with you for the second round?
So, I'm thinking about this. I guess over 30 years experience in writing, editing, and all kinds of business settings, helping smaller companies solve problems that have to do with, how do we get our marketing and branding, our communication done without, hiring extra people. So as I said to begin with, I'm not sure that a lot of companies think that that's a problem for them. I think that, they've either outsourced to AI or to agencies, or as most of the people on the call, there's companies offering services that reduce or eliminate the need for human redundancy, or what is perceived as that. So I guess, the advantage that I offer is trustworthy, experienced, available to help people actually problem solve around communication.
Yes, these are important points, and also you also talk about AI earlier in terms of your service and your marketplace. By the fact that you actually personally listen to an organization, their expectations and their requirements, and you personally deliver as to their messages, whether that's a public, maybe that's a marketing literature, maybe that's a press release, maybe that's another editorial service that you're offering. There is always a personal touch that you put together and you offer them. That is also very exciting for organizations, I'm sure, because you offer these unique insights and you reflect it on the work that you put together. That's also
Yeah, I think when I look at the clients that I still have, they're people who they don't have time or interest in wading through like what's legitimate, what's not. You're getting scammed constantly with emails and phone calls. So it's people who want someone that they can trust to get on the backside of their website, make changes, help them keep things updated, or write content where they don't want to have to worry about, is the context being done properly, or the intonation, that kind of stuff. So I'm very relational, small scale. So it's people who want a very personal touch.
absolutely. That's really exciting, and thank you very much for sharing these, Carla. Then let's continue with you, if that's okay. So what are some common challenges that you see in the marketplace in your own field, and why should organizations work with you, and how your organization is different from others in your own field?
Sure. So the way my organization is different from others is we take a holistic approach. So many times we get called in because clients have either stagnated, run into that brick wall, or are unhappy with what their people and systems are able to do, getting reporting out, being able to move forward. So we took that holistic approach to, let's find out why there are blockage or stoppages within your system. Why can't information flow work through the entire system? And are people working as efficient, effective as possible? We also interview a good amount of people within the environments that we go into to find out how they work and make them part of the solution, not part of the problem. And the third thing we do is we then suggest change management, very difficult for some, on how we move from A to B without big disruptions. And the change management usually comes with change of software, sometimes change of people. Certainly comes with a reorganization of how people are using the software that's either inherent, and we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, or that's going to come into the organization. And then we help them manage that flow through that process. So that's what makes us different. That's why people like to come to us. A lot of times we'll start with a client and they'll go, well, all we wanted is a new accounting system. Can you recommend a new accounting system? And I'll go, I can recommend 3 new accounting systems. And they'll all do accounting for you. But will they do the accounting that you want? Will your people use them? And will it make you more effective managers and leaders for your company? And then they sit back and they go, okay, so what do we got to do? And we'll go through this iterative process of interviewing the people, making them part of a solution, bringing that solution to bear, and then working with them to make sure that when we're changing that, or after we've implemented, we're doing a post-implementation review, make sure everybody's doing well. So that's our whole holistic viewpoint for our customers. Again, many times I get customers that are experiencing an issue and they need to put the puzzle pieces back together because they're all on the table, but they just can't. They're in the mix of it and they can't see how to put that puzzle back together, and we help them do that.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Dan, for these insights. Vince, shall we continue with you in this round?
Please. And I was listening to Daniel talking, and there are so many things that are currently challenges out there, and Carla as well. I mean, look, where do I start? We're finding that there's this generational shift. I have customers, clients that I've been helping for quite some time. I have a client that is working in the 3rd generation. So the point to this discussion is that we're having this generational shift, and many early adopters of transitioning to new systems have done so, and the remainder, there's fear and loathing, uncertainty. Daniel talked about, transformation can be disruptive. It can affect not only, and again, for the accounting staff, and it can be very disruptive because automation, good, bad, or indifferent, is going to potentially, and not could replace somebody. And in fact, part of our technique for having a conversation is, can you continue doing what you're doing without adding full-time equivalents? Are you expanding or contracting? That's the first question. If you're expanding, can you continue doing what you're doing without adding full-time equivalents? And is the talent out there for you to hire? And those are 3 challenges right there, talent. And so when we talk about coming into a new information system, accounting information systems, human capital management solution, or any business process improvement, there is the old guard, anybody that, like me, my age, there's uncertainty as to whether or not this challenge will be disruptive and affect me personally. And so we're seeing that hesitation, people not really sure how this will impact us. AI can be wonderful in certain aspects, and it can be very hallucinogenic. There can be false information. Where AI shines in accounting software is you get the AP automation and in some case AR automation. So we're not having, historically, some accounting departments for mid-sized companies, they might have had 3 or 4, even 5 people in there doing different roles. Now we have 2 or 3, in some cases 2. So those are some of the challenges, and our approach is to mitigate those fears and uncertainty. And what differentiates us is on the back end. Once we're done with the implementation, everyone's happy, and now it comes to support. I'm a big advocate of, we answer the phone. So what we're seeing in the marketplace with a lot of our competition is they want the customer to go out and go into a website, log a ticket, and unfortunately, I don't want to sound too disparaging, 20-somethings don't have the skill sets to have a conversation. They want to try to resolve an issue by email or text. Now, this boggles my mind to no extent. I cannot solve a customer's payroll issue. Well, more importantly, I need to get payroll out. It's a Friday pay date. I have until Wednesday afternoon to deliver it. On Tuesday, I discover an anomaly with the software. The last thing I want to do is go log a call and wait for somebody to get back to me. No, we still have a logging system, but we have a guaranteed response time where we'll contact the customer and say, hey, I'm in the middle of a podcast. I'm in the middle of a meeting. I will get back to you. Or I can have Randy respond to your question. I have more knowledge of your personal experience, but I can get back to you as soon as possible. The point to this is we are going to solve the issue by calling. I had a recent experience with one vendor that was exchanging emails with a client for 3 days. And I finally picked the phone up and went up the food chain to the director and said, this whole thing could have been resolved in a 15-minute phone conversation. Now we have a dissatisfied, disgruntled customer and an employee that is reluctant to pick the phone up. So Kerr Consulting, Cherry Beckert, personalized service, making sure we're following up with the customers, making sure that, and even after the sale, even after we have solved a problem in the tech support, we're making contact with the customer just to see how they're doing. That type of personalized service is invaluable, in my opinion.
That personal touch that you mentioned is really precious. And to your point, it's getting less and less. That human touch, that one-on-one service is getting less and less, which is in your favor. In that sense, Cherry Beckert Kerr Consulting can make itself differentiate itself.
If I was going to get into my soapbox and tell anybody on this podcast that's in this, and I think we're all in the service industry in some regards, that ability to talk, certainly that we have to talk to people. And unfortunately, we're seeing talent out there that has grown up with technology where they don't have to talk to people. I mean, I was at a Starbucks the other day and I saw two people. They were both on their phones, and to come to find out, they were talking by texting each other. I mean, that's absurd. Absolutely absurd. So we have to get, if you want to differentiate your organization from other ones, you make that personal contact. Hell, I go up to a client in about an hour and a half from me, and I stop at a bakery when I go up to visit them. And I come in, the first thing we do, we sit around the table with the accounting and payroll staff, and we have Danish and a cup of coffee and just find out how they're doing, how their families are doing. Now, you may think, what a waste of time, Vince. No, it's that personal relationship, and that's what it's all about, is building personal relationships with you and becoming that trusted advisor. And you become that trusted advisor by getting a connection with people, not through machines. There's my rant for the
Absolutely. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Well, yes, go ahead, Carla.
Well, I was just nodding as Vince is talking, and I guess maybe it is a generational thing, but I feel like we still need a sense of humanity. People need to connect. And that's, as I said earlier, my business has always been based on the relational aspect. I exhibit that I actually care about the people. I care about their business, and they learn that they can trust me with any aspect of their business. Their brand. I mean, your brand, I mean, even on an individual level, I always tell my 25-year-old daughter, like, how you dress, how you speak, how you present online, that is your brand. And if you're not serious about it, somebody else is going to be, and they're probably not going to present it in a way that long-term you find desirable. So I don't know what that means for my business, but I just agree that somehow humanity, like, that's how we have to proceed with even all these developments, is that you keep some level of human connection in the mix. So thanks, Kevin. That's my soapbox.
No, of course. This is a great insight. Thank you very much. Richie, if that's okay, let's continue with you. So my question is actually twofold, right? So what are the common challenges that you see in the marketplace, in your own field, and why companies should choose your organization, your services? How do you differentiate yourself? Well, question after question. So it's a loaded question, so take your time.
I know it's quite loaded, but I think I think with what has just been said here, I think there is a lot about how AI technology and everything is taking over. But I think my background, I spent about 20 years building systems in the banking industry, so I know I've known systems, I've known scale, but I've also known burnout, right? So for me, the challenge I did see is there's so much emphasis on the tools, be it the last 20 years in building systems, but I've seen that in the businesses I've worked with as well in the past. There's so much emphasis on the tools, the strategies, and neglecting the very operator behind those tools, right? So we're looking at how is it that we can have this new system, this new hack, but those systems can be better utilized. Those can be better levers if the operator behind it were actually operating as they should. So there's so much we live in this now hustle culture, and that is so prevalent. And at times we just drift without actually realizing that case. So yeah, so what I do in my case, what I've been doing, and that's what Operators Edge comes in, is looking at it from a different lens, as opposed to looking at just as the tools. But we start with the operator. How is it we can upgrade the operator behind it all? Then everything else flows so much better, right? How is it that we can win in all these areas that matter? It's not about the next level is not predicated on more hustle. It's predicated on you being the better operator, because when the operator is strong, everything else scales so much faster, cleaner, without burnout. So I think that is what we do, and that is what I've seen. I think happening so much in the marketplace, be it in businesses, be it in our own as entrepreneurs as well. That neglect, and at times it's just that awareness. And yeah, that's what I do, is bring about how we can build people systems and bring humanity back to life. I like what Dan was talking about earlier about the holistic part as well. I think holistic is a key word there. How is it we can look at it from that perspective, as opposed to just looking at the tools? What is a new tool that's coming up? AI, right? How do we bring that personality to it? What Kyle has just been talking about. Yes, that I think we can shift that as well, because there's no way AI can ever replace a human being, that human touch that comes with it. Things like stories, right? What can we bring to the marketplace that will bring that humanity back, as opposed to all these looking at more about just the tools as opposed to the operators behind everything, in a business and in the operations and everything else.
I appreciate it, Richie. Thank you very much for these insights.
Kevin, if I might, just to piggyback off of Richie's
Sure.
comments, when we go in to do an implementation or during the sales process, we will, a lot of times we're dealing with the C-suite, the controller, the chief financial officer, in some cases the chief executive officer, or in some cases the production. And the first thing we ask is, can we talk to one of the things, well, not the first thing, one of the things we ask is, can we talk to the individuals doing the work? You may have, and more importantly, get their sense of how this will impact them. Now, in some cases, they don't want to do that because their goal is to reduce headcount, and that's unfortunate. I believe always that we should repurpose someone's skill sets elsewhere in the firm. That's me personally. It doesn't always work. But the point that Richie had said is that getting that personal connection and finding out, because getting the buy-in from the actual folks that are going to be using the solution is much more productive and makes it a much more successful implementation. There's my rant.
I love that, Vince. Just to add on to that, because that's exactly the problem I've seen, right? In the system, we've been building systems for the last, how many years now? And what I saw is that same buy-in, because it's always top down. You got the guys at the top saying we need this system, we need to put it in place, but you don't have that buy-in of actually the users of those systems. So you find you spend millions and millions in those systems, which drive billions, but they're being underutilized because the people that actually use them are actually not buying into it.
Absolutely.
So that's where that shift needs to happen. Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Vince. David, shall we continue with you in this round?
Sure.
What are the common challenges that you see in the marketplace, in your market, and why should companies choose your organization? How do you distinguish? How do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, our challenges, I think, are pretty different than what everybody else is facing. I mean, I understand what you guys are going through. I was the CFO of a company, manufacturers satellite communications equipment with over 600 employees, and I implemented an ERP system, so I definitely feel your pain. But it's something that you can eventually get organized, and it's great for the company. Really helps. What we face in our industry, the challenges are pretty much twofold. One is on the end user, our customer. Our customers, especially here on Long Island, we love our dumpsters. We love to throw things out instead of recycling them. It's here on Long Island, but it's also in the United States. Only 15% of our electronics are recycled in the US, and 100% of them can be recycled. And that's huge for two reasons. First of all, our landfills are comprised of only 2% of electronics, but they do account for 70% of the toxins in the landfills and around the landfills. So they are pretty toxic. They do cause bad things to happen, and they don't have to be there. The other thing is, if we can reclaim all of these precious metals, we don't have to rely on other countries or mining of those metals to come here in the United States. They're already here. They're already in our devices. We can reclaim them and reuse them. So we have that challenge on the customer side. The other thing is, customers don't like to pay for recycling, and sometimes the data destruction portion of what we do. And we see a lot of companies will go out and greenwash. They'll talk about all the wonderful things they're doing for the environment, but when you dig down, they're not really doing too much to help the environment. And by recycling electronics, that's a huge way they can help. And things like our reporting, and I'll get into some of the reasons why companies would choose us. First of all, it's our NAID certification. As a NAID certified company through iSigma, all of our employees are background tested, drug tested. They've been through a course which we have to renew annually on the proper handling and just protecting data. And we have to pass an exam every year. And that testing is ongoing. Every year, a certain percentage of our employees have to get drug tested again, and they have to get background tested. NAID pops in to audit us. We go through an annual audit, but they do pop in for surprise audits. It happened to us back in July. The doorbell rang because we're a secure facility, and I was expecting a banker. And I heard the auditor was here, and I said, "You mean the banker?" And they said, "No, the auditor." And I said, "You mean the fire marshal?" Because the fire marshal's always here checking on our batteries. And they said, "No, the auditor." And sure enough, he came in and he did an audit of our facility. We passed with flying colors, but we always have to be on our toes. And there are times where he follows us out on pickups without telling us to make sure that we are handling devices properly in the field also.
Wow.
Part of that NAID certification too is our reporting. So we'll go in, we'll do all the heavy lifting, right? Companies should use us. We do all the heavy lifting. We bring the devices out to our vehicles, which are all GPS tracked, come back to our secure facility. So that allows their staff to do things, especially the IT staff, to help their company run and operate, to keep people running smoothly so that they can make money. It also frees up space. There's a lot of valuable real estate that's out there, piled full of electronics that don't need to be there. And some companies will even try and maybe sanitize devices on their own through various means. Drilling holes in them doesn't work. Shooting them with a shotgun doesn't work. Burning them in a fire pit doesn't work. Putting them in a pond doesn't work. I've heard all of these. I've seen all of these. It doesn't work. One of our first customers, I went in to do a pickup, and I felt really bad for the guy. Really nice guy. They're a repeat customer. We've helped him a lot of times, and he was so proud that he had spent the last year and a half sanitizing all of his devices so we didn't have to do it. So I told him, as a NAID company, we have to assume every device has data on it, whether you've said it's sanitized or not. I said, so I'm going to have to go in and sanitize it or destroy the drive anyway. I said, but what took you a year and a half to do is going to take me less than 2 days to do. So really, he spent a lot of time, taking care of something that didn't have to be done that we could do. And then also part of what we do is we provide detailed reporting. So we'll document every device that comes in, especially those that have data with a make, model, serial number, and a weight. And then say it's a computer and it's got a hard drive in it, we'll document that too also in the device that it came out of. So there's traceability back to the device. So, you know, we've passed HIPAA audits, we've passed CMMC audits, we've passed EDLAW audits with our reporting. So, I mean, it's a reason to use a certified company. And, you know, one thing we also see is that oftentimes the IT companies or the MSPs will take back devices instead of going through a company like Pupfish, and they're not NAID certified. And although we want to hope that they're handling data the right way, you're not sure that they are. And I can just point to something that happened this summer. So, you know, for those of you that are local and have visited us, you know that my dog Guinness comes in to work with me quite often. And one Monday morning, I went to take him out back for his walk, and I tripped going out the back door. And I tripped over a pile of electronics that was left on our back porch, our back door of our facility. So, you know, I yelled in, "What's going on?" And we checked our cameras, and sure enough, it was an IT professional, somebody who's trusted in the community, had dropped the devices off on a Sunday afternoon before the Monday. They were hard drives in there with data. Now, we don't look at anybody's drives, but this one I had to at least see if there was data on it before I called them and yelled at them. Sure enough, there was data on it. There were computers left out there. There were switches left out there. And, you know, his customers had given him this equipment, assuming he was going to do the right thing. And I think assuming that somebody's going to do the right thing is the wrong thing to do. You have to make sure you're using a certified professional to discard these devices, especially the data. So, you know, the NAID certification separates us from your typical recyclers and your IT companies that may take data back. And what separates us from the rest of our competition is that we will degauss your standard hard drive. Basically, that's a process of demagnetizing the drive. 99.9% of our competitors will shred an HDD. And although that's great because it's very hard to put those pieces back together or get data off of them, you still can. That data is still there. The data is not gone. So in the degaussing process, the data is gone forever. And that's one of the things we do at Pupfish. No data leaves our facility in any form. And our degausser is on the NSA's list of for the most confidential information that they have. So that's kind of what separates us from our competition that is maybe NAID certified and doing it the right way.
Great insights. Thank you very much, David. And how important it is actually what you do in terms of the sustainability, right? The recycling part, also the destroying the data. For sure, professionally, these are really important the services that you're offering in that sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Shrey, you ready? Shall we continue with you?
Yeah, hi. To answering to your two particular questions, I would like to say that why people come to us or what is the success story for us is about the accountability, sustainability, our innovative approach, and we always deliver more than expected. And also, we make sure that our strategy is such that it gives you a comfort level to the stakeholders or the owners, so that they would definitely would want to make the improvements in their companies, and they would definitely would like to hire us for their improvement in the processes.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Shrey, for these insights. Well, in this next round, let's talk about the million-dollar question, which is the AI. So in your view, how do you see AI is impacting businesses in general? And as well as in your industry, how do you see the impact of it in general? So if you can share your insights, that'd be great. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Shreya and I, we went to an event. We were at a manufacturer's location, and we had similar conversations with manufacturing experts as well as other business professionals. How is the impact of AI in manufacturing. So it's a mix, right? There are different takes in that sense. How AI is actually impacting currently, and how it will be continue impacting businesses and business practices. So let's share our insights in this round, if that's okay. Carla, if we can start with you, that'd be great. You shared some of your insights actually earlier in terms of the impact of AI in your own business. Anything else that you like to share in your business, as well as impact of AI in business in general?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not an expert in the use of AI, and I understand that it has a very important place that is still evolving. I think I already said my piece that I think that somehow figuring out how to keep the humanity side alive and understanding that humans still, need to be included, and their lives, everybody has a life and they want to feel like they're contributing. I mean, that's the dignity of work. Everybody, we're made to work, and a sense of being silent. I mean, we've seen this in our country, really in all developed countries, right? Where replacement of, people's jobs with the idea of making things simpler, faster, offshoring. So yeah, I just hope that there's still a place for people who are trying to help keep the humanity side alive.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Carla, for your insights. And we have more to talk in our next round, and looking forward to hearing your insights as well. Vince, what do you think about the impact of AI currently and then moving forward?
There's two things I want to talk about. One, how it's impacting me personally. I'm still in what I consider to be a business development for our firm. In the past, I was doing everything: the sales, the marketing, the discovery calls, the demonstrations, the implementation, support, and that just was not sustainable. Now I'm doing business development, and some of the tools that AI afford us is, I'll give you a particular example. We're using dynamic CRM, and of course we have Outlook, and we have all these other communication tools, Teams. And so what's happening now is when we associate or link a conversation, a meeting, notes, anything relevant to an opportunity or a lead, that then goes over into our CRM. Of late, they've had this wonderful little 4-line synopsis of where we are. Now, in the past, I'd have to go through all my notes. I'd have to go through and listen to the audio and transcribe the meeting notes. First and foremost, discovery calls are being recorded with Teams. That is then being transcribed, and AI is doing this phenomenal summary. Now, is it perfect? No, there's some hallucinogenics. There's some hallucination out there. You have to be astute to that. That information then goes into our CRM. So anybody that comes behind me, and all our support calls, so existing customers that we're doing work with, and we are tracking, that information is being tracked, that's being summarized, as well as new opportunities for existing customers while we're doing the support call. The point of this is that we're getting this, relatively speaking, short synopsis of the last 4 or 5 points of contact with a lead, a customer, a lead, or opportunity. And I got to tell you, that's a game changer. It just kind of blew my mind away, because I would spend literally sometimes hours trying to get that information summarized for someone who's going to do a demonstration on a product, for someone that's going to do a handoff from the sales cycle to the implementation team. We now have detailed information as to what was discussed, what was excluded, and again, from that standpoint, the efficiency are fantastic. From some of our customers, I'm going to give one small example, and I'll move on, let other people talk. The procure to pay situation. You're looking at, if you're a manufacturer, distributor, or in construction, or anything where you have you're buying stuff, right? And then there may or may not be an inventory consequence. We've always had the ability to have, minimum order requirements, and when we're going to automate that process. But now it's gotten real defined. So it's looking over at the sales items. It's looking to see, do I have this in stock? It's generating potentially an automatic PO with a workflow where some human being can interact with it to approve the workflow. Then we have the invoice that comes in, and it used to be the AP clerks were taking that stuff and keying it in. With OCR and artificial intelligence, we're getting people that are all that information is being scanned, is being OCR, it's being populated. Again, a human can then review, valid, and three-way matching, of course, from the purchase order, the shipping tickets, and the AP invoice. All that process is being automated. I mentioned earlier in our conversation, some of our customers used to have 3, 4, 5 people in accounting. And with these automations now, we really are seeing efficiencies where an AP person is really reviewing and validating data that's coming in as opposed to keying it into a system. So those are some of the positive aspects of AI. The more negative aspects, as we've already talked about, it's just disruptive and it can eliminate people who may have been loyal employees. And the real goal here is whenever we have these conversations with prospects or customers is what impact will this have on your staff? And can you repurpose that staff member to some other or redefine their role so they're adding value to the process as opposed to doing relatively rote data entry?
Appreciate it. Thank you, Vince, for these insights. Appreciate it. How about you, Richie? What is your take on the impact of AI on business and business in general?
Yeah, that's a good one. On my view on AI, I look at AI more as a tool, not so much in the case of replacing the human, because I think the way I look at it, whatever it is that we're using AI for, it still has to be driven by that human touch to it. Like in Operator's Edge, we got 3 areas we focus on. The very first one is all about energy because energy drives execution. Then the second area is all about the builder, which is about systems, because if you don't have systems, you become the system. And the last one is all about relationships because relationships pretty much fuel everything. So it's more about the middle part, right? I don't think energy systems AI is going to replace that. But what it does, it's about creating that bandwidth by having systems. Because if you don't have systems, you become a system. So what has been very, very helpful with my clients and for me personally is part of it actually what Vince actually alluded to in the streamlining of processes. We have in the pillar for say the systems which we call DARE, there is the automation sort of like a process that we have to go through, and if it's something that you do on a regular, so some task that is very repetitive, it's either you delegate or maybe you automate it so you can sort of like create that white space for more value adding stuff, because it's all about how is it you can scale without sacrifice. And that's how I look at AI is more about that assistant, that tool that can actually help you execute faster and quicker. And it's been a game changer in a lot of ways in so doing. But at the same time, I don't think it should, or at this where it's at right now, it's at that point where you can actually replace a human touch because you have to direct it. You have to have clarity of vision. It's your purpose, right? Which then you have to pretty much direct that AI to go in that direction. Otherwise, it's just a jumbled amount of data or information that comes out of it. But you have to have that human touch to it, human mind in that thought and putting into that idea so you can just execute quicker. So I think I look at it more just as an efficiency tool as opposed to replacing a human being in case of like thinking and the execution part, which comes from the energy part of it. So yeah, so for me, I think it's been a game changer from that perspective because my work is more about how is it we can scale without sacrificing the things that matter the most, be it our health, be it our relationships, because those are kind of key. And with automating a lot of this stuff, you find you create that white space to be able to scale without burning out, but without scaling, without sacrificing the things that matter the most to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Richie, for your insights. Uh, David, what do you think about the impact of AI on business?
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's gone before me has, had some very good insight, and I kind of agree with them that it's a tool. I mean, it's a tool to be used, and tools can be good and bad, right? You can use a hammer to build something. You could use a hammer to break something. And I think, our approach, as a company here at Pupfish, we're using it to help take care of some of those tasks that are very time consuming and maybe don't require a whole lot of thought, or to do some research for us. One of the things that we're improving is, right now on our recycling certificates, we talk about how much weight the client has kept out of the landfill, which is a very valuable number. But what's even better is greenhouse gases. How many greenhouse gases have you saved by recycling a device versus throwing it into the landfill? But that's a tough number to come up with, especially in the past. How many greenhouse gases does it take to build a computer? Well, what's the size of the computer? How old is the computer? But with AI, we've been able to go in and at least get some good average numbers that we can now use to add to our reporting. That's the type of thing we're using it for. Some of the other things we use it for is to help us write procedures. As an AID certified company, we have to have procedures for everything. So something as simple as, taking apart an iPad at a customer's location because they want the data destroyed on site. We have to cover everything from, where is the data located? Where's the battery located so we don't puncture the battery? What happens if there is a battery fire? So that can take, days and weeks to put together. And I was actually able to write that procedure, at least the framework for that procedure, in a few minutes by just going out to AI and saying, okay, I'm going to go destroy something that has a lithium ion battery. What safety precautions should I take? And they threw out there a good portion of the information I needed without me having to do the research. So that's kind of, our view on it. It's a tool for good and bad. We try to use it always for good, and that it can really help us move things along faster here, and to spend the time helping our clients versus, pushing papers.
Thank you, David, for your insights. Much appreciated. Well, in this round, I'd like you to share any professional advice with organizations. What would be your professional advice that you like to share with organizations based on your expertise area, based on your company's products and services? Carla, shall we start with you in this round?
I think I've already said probably what I have to offer, and that is, that your brand is everything, and that it's,
yes,
more specific.
Yes. So, let's talk about this. So, let's say in the case of Cherry Beckert, right? So, if Vince to share any professional advice, for example, hey, it's important to think about cybersecurity, for example. It's because you keep your data secure, but for that you need to keep training your employees. That's a professional advice. Or in the case of David, for example, so his business is in sustainability. So any professional advice from his point of view will be, make sure you keep your electronics safe. Don't try to recycle by yourself, right? Get professional help. Make sure your data is secure. Like this type of insights that any professional advice that you like to share in this round.
So I'll keep it short, Kevin. So words matter, right? Words matter. Writing is hard because writing is thinking. David McCullough said that, professional historian. So while AI can take lots of information and pull it together and spit something out that maybe is passable, I think there's still times where thinking carefully, thoughtfully about what you want to communicate, professionally, personally, in any context, is still important. So whatever your business, words matter. How about that?
Sounds great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Carla, for these insights. Truly appreciate it. Vince?
Boy, Kevin, that is such a loaded conversation. We just don't have the time for me to rant on about advice. Look, I have a sticky note that I bring up every morning, and there's several quotes, but the top three. The first one is, "Be present." And what do I mean by that? Going back to that personal touch, you always got to make the person on the other side of the conversation have seem that they have value, and it's difficult with all these different distractions. Even during this podcast, I was cheating and looking down at my email, and that was a violation of the be present discussion. When you're having a conversation, whether in person or with online or whatever method, to be present with that person is so key and essential, in my opinion. The next thing I have is just two words: just listen. Now, Kevin knows me pretty well, and sometimes I occupy the conversation. And the reason I have that quote up there and I look at it is because a lot of times you got to shut up and just listen. And then the last is a quote from Zig Ziglar. And for those folks who are of a mature age, they probably know who he is. To those folks that don't know who he is, I highly recommend going and looking at his body of work. Motivational speaker, sales guy. And one of his quotes years ago that I've always appreciated and kept was, and I'm going to read it to you: "You can get everything in your life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want." Mm-hmm. Now, you got to ponder those words, right? I want to make a sale. What does the customer want? The customer wants a system that he can rely upon. They want a relationship with a business partner they can rely upon, and they want to be within their budgetary constraint. So you have to work that through. But if we keep that philosophy, then I think any business will be successful, because you're really in the business of, in order to get what you want, you got to help others get what they want. That's the paraphrase. And those are my words of wisdom for today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for these insights. Richie, how about you? Any professional advice for businesses and professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my words, I would say maybe one of my beliefs is, again, going back to that in the case our next level is actually not predicated or built on more hustle, right? We live in this hustle culture. Our next level is built on being a stronger operator. So that version of you that leads with more clarity, energy, and conviction in every domain of life. Because I believe if the operator is strong, everything else scales much faster, much cleaner, without burnout. And I think that is success. Success is not all about sacrifice. It isn't success if it costs you everything. So I think that is what I think I would live it with.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Richie, for these insights. David, how about you? Any advice from your side?
Well, you did a great job, Kev. You did a great job summarizing the industry-specific stuff, with your examples. So, you're hired.
Thank you.
In terms of protecting data and the environment, right? That's what we do. Our tagline is, we're passionate about the environment and we're experts in data destruction. And that's what we like to pass along. In general, there's probably three things. One is, you always act with integrity. One of the reasons why we named our company Pupfish is the pupfish is a tiny fish in Death Valley that my dad loved to go see after the trade show for the electronics industry out in Las Vegas. Him and my mom would hike out there, and he loved these pupfish to the point where he brought us out there, and he ran his companies with the highest of integrity. And to me, that's something that I picked up, that you always have to act with integrity. The second thing is continuous improvement. I mentioned, we were coming up on our 5th-year anniversary, October 1st. And, when we look back at when we started, the change in what has happened over the last 5 years is huge, but it wasn't one giant step. It was a series of very minor steps, multiple minor steps that got us to where we were going. And that continuous improvement has been so important to us, as it should be for all other companies. And the other thing I could say is keep learning. Our industry seems to get locked in on doing things the old way, which is why so many people are still shredding hard drives instead of degaussing them. And even on the recycling side, the whole process of getting the metals off the boards by smelting or by using toxic chemicals sometimes to get the metals off the boards is changing. I happened to see a Netflix show of a company in New Zealand that came up with this biomass that can do this process with the PC board using very little heat and by using no caustic chemicals. And I had I reached out to them. I looked them up. I reached out to them, and they reached back to me, and we had a great conversation to the point where they are bringing their process to the United States down in Texas, and they'll be opening up their plant down in 2026. And I'm thrilled that they invited me to the opening of that facility because I think, we can do great things recycling the way we're doing them now, but I think we're just scratching the surface as to where we can be, now with batteries and the car batteries. And it's just, there's so much out there now that we can improve upon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, David, for your insights. And also, to David's point, I had the pleasure of visiting Puffish facility, and I got the personal training from David himself, so that's why I'm actually familiar with his operations. It's a great company, and also it was a very educational facility too for me. So I really liked it, and very informative. Thank you, David, for that tour.
My pleasure. You're always welcome. And Vince, if you're going to bring the Danishes, please stop by.
Will do. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin.
Yes.
Kevin, can I, as with this last round with the inspirations, can I say something about the leadership inspiration quotes of the week? One of the things I still do with mission statements for years, I've had used to be a daily, then a weekly quote of the day. So now I have leadership inspiration that comes out monthly. So if you're interested, I've written down some of the words that you all shared, and I may quote some of you. So missionstatements.com, and you have my email, and Kevin can share it if you'd like to be on that list.
Absolutely. I'll put it on the screen. Yes, sure, definitely. So we start with Carla. Let's have our final remarks before we end the networking event. Carla, thank you very much for these. Truly appreciate it. And to our listeners and our audience and our viewers, anyone who is in need of for your business, for any content or marketing, as well as editorial services, also anything such as marketing material, also press release, please contact Carla and be in touch with her and get her insights before you decide to take next steps. Thank you very much, Carla. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Vince, any final words from your side before we end the networking event?
I think I have occupied as much of the time as I should. No, I look, it's a changing world out there, and we have to be able to adapt. I don't care what the industry is. Those that adapt and redefine themselves. I've told my children, my adult children now, that unless you're redefining yourself every 3 to 5 years, you will not be marketable, and therefore you'll not be employable. So those are the things that I try to live by, and always, I think one of the comments was always willing to learn new things, and that's essential. If I don't keep learning every day. I dedicate about an hour to 2 hours a day learning the solutions. Maybe not enough to implement them, but at least enough to know what their functionality is so that I can promote them to my customers or have a conversation with my customers about how this will impact them. So constant state of learning. A lot of mistakes sometimes people make is they come out of trade school, tech school, university, and they have their knowledge base, their book knowledge base, and then they get smacked upside the head with reality of practical experience, and that they don't realize that learning is a lifetime event.
Yeah.
There we go.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Vince. And any organization that is in need of business software, right, technology products, contact Vince at careconsultant.com, now Cherry Deckard. They have years of experience, decades of experience, and it's a great organization, of course, there is no doubt about it. And I have Vince's contact information on the screen. Uh, Feel free to get in touch with him for technology needs for your business as well as business software. Vince, thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Richie, any final notes, remarks from your side before we end our networking event?
Yeah, I think I'll just echo that. I think keep on growing, right? And it's not about hustle. It's all about how easy we can upgrade the operator behind it all. Because if the operator is upgraded, then those tools, the systems, those hacks, then they just become levers. So how is it that we need to look at it from that perspective?
I appreciate it. Thank you, Richie, for your insights, and thank you for being with us. Truly appreciate it. How about you, David? So final notes, final remarks from your side?
Just in summary, protect that data at rest. It is data at risk, and you are liable to protect it until that data is gone forever. And please protect our environment. Before you throw something in the garbage, try and recycle it. Very little effort, we can make big changes and help our environment in a positive way.
Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to thank our attendees for being with us today. It was actually very informative for all of us in terms of learning about what you do, what makes your company different, and how you serve your markets and businesses. Vince, Richie, David, Carla, thank you very much for being with us, and I wish you a great weekend.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take
Thank you
care.
very
Nice
much.
to meet everyone.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Of course,
Bye-bye
thank you
now.
very much. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
To our audience and to our listeners, thank you for being with us in the Connection America Business Alliance online networking event. Well, it was actually very educational. We didn't have only one. We had actually 6, 7 business professionals today being with us, and it was very educational. They all brought their own insights from their own industries. In that sense, there was a lot to talk about. There was a lot to discuss, but at the same time, it was actually very educational for all of us. So I truly appreciate their insights and their time. I hope you like this event as well. The Connectional America Business Alliance online networking events are monthly. Our goal is to invite business professionals and experts to these networking events that they can network with each other. But at the same time, they are on the American Business Podcast platform. So it is live and it's on various social media channels such as LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and others. So that's a great opportunity for learning about businesses and learning from other professions. In that sense, I was able to be with these professionals and we continue these online networking events on the basis. Connection America Business Alliance is and for any size of companies and any size of professionals for any size of companies to share their professional wisdom, also to introduce themselves, products, services, as well as their benefits in their operations. So that's a great event. We really enjoy it, and we'll continue bringing this to you. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. I'm looking forward to having you in the next Connection America Business Alliance online business networking event hosted on the American Business Podcast. American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. Thank you very much and have a great weekend.